6 conversation sessions. You took us on a forest walk.
I try to be outside in the forest whenever I can.
It always sounds so serious, that voice, doesn't it? Recording in progress.
Yes, it's a very serious job. I've got to know that it's this amazing goddess of Zoom called Zelda, she holds many roles. She listens to many conversations. I've also heard that she wears incredible outfits, like really colorful flared trousers. Unfortunately, she has a permanent smoking habit, which is not surprising. It's a lot of tension holding, whenever you have to start a recording, having to go and say that. So thank you so much, Zelda, for keeping us on our toes. And I hope you can enjoy at least some of these meetings as well. And welcome, Todd. I've heard you've been busy creating beauty for us all.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been a little busy this morning, so glad to be present with you all.
So I think we're still waiting for a couple of minutes to see if somebody else joins. And while we do that, just inviting us to be however we are. Beautiful to see the trees that Vivek is taking us for a walk under as well, and knowing that maybe there are some really wise children looking for bananas with mescal. There might be some interesting, also very wise children about to ring on Kath's door without she knowing, but we will see. I just want to keep on welcoming people. Oh, it's so lovely to see you. Trisha, RJ, Paula, so lovely to see you as well. Just inviting us to just find a way to be comfortable and present, and we will start maybe in the next half a minute. We're just still waiting for more people to arrive. So if there's anything last minute that you want, a glass of water, a cup of tea, opening the window, letting in the cat, letting out the cat or the dog. And yes, thank you, Trisha, for modeling that. It's really fine to be off camera or with your camera. It's lovely to see you, but if being off camera is what allows you to be more present, then just trusting that. I'm really grateful to some amazing teachers I have that always keep on reminding me and everybody self-care right on top. Welcome, Ben. It's lovely to see you as well. So here we are. Welcome to this session, Viva Vivero 2024, where we will be hearing some stories of how this year has developed, and also before and perhaps beyond. I have the suspicion, welcome Clement as well, find your way to land. So lovely to see you. I have the suspicion that the stories are becoming less and less linear. So there is this connection, this flow between the past, the present, and the future as we tell them, and as we tell them again, and as we tell them again. So inviting us to be present for this, to be recipients of this gift of stories and of this amazing work that the Vivero community is doing. I'm just going to invite us to be present with our bodies for a couple of minutes. And if this is not something that allows you to land well, then just ignore my words or imagine that they are the wind or a river. But if it's okay with you, inviting you to connect with your breath. And just checking, how is the landscape of my breath right now? What's the pace, the spaciousness? How does it change my body when it comes in and flows out? If it's okay with you, inviting you to slow it down a little, just as far as it's comfortable. Really follow it in as far as you want. And also as you breathe out. And for the next couple of breaths, also feeling the earth underneath you. I invite you to sense or imagine where this air comes from. The green nation producing oxygen for you and for every other organism. So welcoming that breath, that air. And as you breathe out, maybe sensing the alchemical processes happening in your body and transforming it into a gift for those very beings that are making oxygen for you, for all of us. Inviting you to connect with your heart area and maybe sense the reciprocity of receiving oxygen and gifting CO2 and all manner of compounds that we are gifting and sharing with the world. Inviting you to really connect with your body and find maybe a posture or a movement that reflects how you're landing right now. Maybe there is curiosity, rush, nothingness, nervousness, just welcoming whoever you are in this moment. So I just want to honor, just inviting it just to be in a place of comfort and awakeness. And I am going to honor the space and the time together just by lighting a candle and pouring some water. And as I light this candle, I want you to connect, or I invite you to connect with qualities of support that somehow you feel when you see the flame, the light, the fire. Inviting you to, if you know Vivero, if you've been part of it, connect with the fire of Vivero. And if you don't know it yet, connect with the fire of a community intent in transforming the world into something more beautiful, healthier. What qualities are you bringing in for yourself, and just like the breath, to share with everybody else in this call and beyond? Just feel them by yourself. Invite them to be present with us. There's a theme of water running through our gathering in CoFundEco as well. And I want to honor the flow of interests, visions, dedication, connections, care that I know exists not only within Vivero, but between Vivero and CoFundEco and beyond. So I want to pour some water from the River Walkham in Dartmoor, southwest England, the land previously hosting the Dumnoni nation. And again, invite you to connect with qualities that come up for you when you feel the water, when you think of water. And I also want to just invite whatever ways each of us have of asking for support, of connecting with the elements. So many beautiful, nourishing, amazing traditions that I know are contained even within this group of people that honor the elements, all the other nations, the different beings, the different elements, our past and our future. So just inviting that feast of possibilities to be part of our meeting. And I'm not going to bring any of that, but just inviting those things in and trusting that we are all vessels of connection. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for making time and whatever arrangements you had to be present here. This is us. Thank you, Vivero, for inviting me to host this space. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. And so I think without further ado, we will go into listening to the stories. So we will have a round of stories from the people deeply involved in Vivero. And after that, we will love to have some comments, questions, what resonated for you in the participants. And always open to see what's emerging and if we need to change the flow. So I'm going to pass this cup of water to Midi to start us off with a fairy tale of Vivero.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dita. Thank you for that welcome and for the connection, because I suddenly felt contact with my 32 times great-grandmother, Melusine, and family legend has it that she was half fairy, half human. So perhaps it's just so that I tell a story, a fairy story of Vivero beginnings. In the post-war England I grew up in, television hadn't reached us when I was a child. And so radio was our oral tradition. And there was a program each day which I sat down for. And it was called Listen with Mother. And it always began with, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. So, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Once upon a regenerative dream, a wise woman adventured bravely south from her US Midwest home in search of better ways to live and thrive. In beautiful Barachara, she fell under the spell of Vivero, a word which Colombians use to name a nursery where seeds are incubated and plants are nurtured until they're ready to thrive on their own in the elements. Touched by invisible magic from within this word, the wise woman dreamed of a human Vivero. She saw how, if each member of a community gives small monthly sums into a commons trust, the joy of funding and nurturing seedling regenerative projects can be shared among many, and how over time those seeds can grow into plants bearing fruit, so that more people and places find better ways to live their dreams and thrive together, while those who give and accompany them on their journey receive a reciprocal harvest as part of a collective regenerative story. The magic drew a powerful wizard into the wise woman's dreamscape, and her delight was great when he waved his magic technology wand and said, "Have I got just the app for your Vivero vision, dear wise woman?" Now the spell and the word Vivero began to spread and gather a buzz of momentum. Soon eager friends were crowding round our wise woman and wizard, dancing and chanting, "Vivero, Vivero, Viva Vivero." Mystery was certainly as strong as magic, for some who chanted weren't sure what they were chanting about, and they didn't quite know why their feet insisted on dancing. What they did know was that their loving hearts had been stirred, and their hands joined with other generous hearts to form a circle. And so it was that in the summer of 2022, the wise woman's regenerative dream was co-midwifed into birth within the Earth Regenerators Network. As seasons turned, the small circle of friends stewarded this baby human Vivero nursery entrusted by the wise woman to their care. Gifts began flowing in from those inspired by the story they heard. Hearts leapt at this chance to share in the pure pleasure of unconditional giving. Then, when it was time, the Vivero nursery doors opened. Friends brought their own seeds and sapling regenerative dream projects to be incubated, nurtured, and nourished through accompaniment in the community Vivero. Having dreamed her big dream into being, the wise woman's work was done. And so she traveled on to share what she had learned about regeneration and to sow community seeds in a northerly land that sorely needed new dreaming. Meanwhile, the wizard stayed on within the online Vivero circle, both nourishing and nourished by its companionship, as he continued to wave his technology wand and allowed his own regenerative vision to mingle and gain strength from entanglement with his friends' diverse and often messy dreams of community. There were uncertainties, challenges, dissent, even occasional conflicts and tears. Yet laughter echoed often also within the walls of the Vivero circle, and through it all could be sensed a consistent quality of committed care and increasing collective confidence. It was during a regenerative constellation for Vivero, hosted by another wise woman, beloved of us here in CoFundEco and beyond, that, to the surprise of many present, a Vivero teenager jumped up and declared itself ready to make a quantum leap beyond Earth Regenerators, to offer its community technology and accompaniment in other regenerative networks bioregions, and ecosystems, which, as things soon turned out in the larger field, was just as well. But that's another story for another day. Time and space weaves and works in wondrous ways when walking a regenerative path. Some of you will have noticed that it took barely 2 years from the dependency of birth for our infant Vivero to become an independent teenager. In the few months since that constellated quantum leap, it seems Vivero may already be wearing interdependent adult clothes too, as she attracts grounded partners and eldership and invites fresh forms of giving and support. Yet she also continues to enjoy childlike delight in laughter and play. And this CoFundEco playground occupies a particularly special, warm place in her heart. And so, dear friends, the Vivero Circle, in all its ages and stages, wishes to wholeheartedly welcome you in to work and play with us today. There's a place for any who hear our call, to borrow a phrase from our beloved partner, Regenerosa, to co-spire with us in our ever-unfolding story. And as we open to whatever may emerge within beyond our gathering, we express gratitude for the Earth Regenerator container that gave us birth. And we honor all ancestors everywhere in that chain of life, regenerating life, of which we are one small link, stretching back and forward through dreaming mists of space beyond space and time beyond time. Welcome all, and I pass that cup of water to Kath.
Thank you so much, Miri, Dieter, for opening the space and our story sharing today. It's so beautiful to walk down memory lane with you all. And I shared it earlier before the call started. I know Midi calls it a fairy tale that she just shared with us, but for me, it is actually a creation myth. And my reasoning is because it goes so much deeper and so much wider. And so what a beautiful gift. Thank you, Midi. I don't know where my heart wants to take us today. So please follow me gently to wherever we go together. There are a few streams alive in me, and I want to try to keep all of them short, but it might also be a bit messy as a little warning. And I want to go back to, I think, October, November last year, maybe even earlier, let's say September. We just finished the turtle giving round, we just finished the turtle giving round in September, and I heard so many mixed voices, I guess, in the field at that time, as some were calling for a new giving round and getting ready and, like keeping the momentum. Others were calling for all sorts of different technologies. I heard AI back then, or we were playing with AI. and also, I think a notion of the offers and needs market that we, or many of us have heard of, came slowly into existence. I also heard something that came back over and over again, was this notion of trees and oaks. I want to name that. And there were two, I think all of this, and as well as our, I guess, first very shy explorations with multiple value flows. It's, yeah, something that has been so at Vivero's core right from the beginning, is this acknowledgement of multiple values, and yeah, that we have financial and non-financial values. And so we were always playing a little with it, and it was always in our awareness. But yeah, I think it fully manifested in us as a beautiful framework when we stepped into a partnership with Rosa, and then Local Food Forest joined us shortly after, and something was ignited in this 8 value flow flower we were playing with, and so that was also kind of for me in that time, during autumn leading into winter. And I also heard Sandra calling for aligning around our visions several times. I think I need to hear signals at least 3 times, and then they're like, oh, there's something important here, I need to listen. And so I guess I name all those for now. And the last thing that came into very painfully into my awareness was this notion that whatever Vivero is calling us to co-create and, steward next, cannot rely on any individual of us. And that it's beautiful that Adrian comes in at exact the right time. Welcome, Adrian. And yeah, I guess that that awareness and acknowledgement that Vivero and her future cannot rely on any individual of us, but actually, and our wholehearted relationality and our trust in one another, yeah, was also kind of like calling in me this notion of, I need structures, give me structures. And you need to know I'm one who does not like many structures. And so, yeah, we stepped into a visioning retreat, and with this idea that this visioning retreat can be a sort of, I guess, grounding space for us to align with one another and with the calling of Vivero. And Uhuru from Local Food Forest said in a one-on-one tea time with her to me as it is an attunement, and it still feels like what we have experienced in the visioning retreat was an attunement, in our, how Annelieke said it so beautifully, in our collective and individual dance within Vivero. And yeah, it was Annelieke who kicked us off with regenerative constellations in the retreat, and we then flowed and eased into a value exploration, a visioning exploration, and a value exploration facilitated by MIDI. And one of the values I want to speak about that still delights my heart is actually one I think that was named the most or appeared the most during our exploration, which was adventure. And it delights my heart because I'm full of adventures. Like my life is an adventure, but it wasn't a value I named. And yeah, something has shifted within us, I want to say, within our relationality during the, I guess, retreat and everything that happened in that, I think, 3 months time. As in, since we were also tending the, I guess, the very administrative and operational needs of Vivero, right? When, you cannot just go somewhere, right, into another visioning universe and leave everything behind. And it is still very challenging for me to find words for what has shifted within us. But I feel that there's this notion of, I guess, responding to Vivero's needs as a teenager or someone in adolescence, early adolescence, I want to say, to respond to those needs with certain structures, certain rhythms, processes, and practices. And we, right from the beginning, we have beautiful, like, minimum viable processes in place, right? Decision making and also rhythm with our Friday call. And so all of that is indeed helpful for Vivero's beauty and, I guess, viability, or vitality is a proper word, to continue to exist even when, one member isn't present from one day to another, which just can happen, right? As in, we cannot take anything for granted. And to hold that trust that this life will exist beyond me and my contribution. And there's a new kind of, I guess, commitment I can feel, and at least I can speak to myself. I feel it in me. And yeah, that excites me to, I guess, go into the second phase of the initial proposal, why we actually did the visionary retreat, which is a learning journey into the 8 principles of managing a commons, after Eleanor Ostrom, which was probably always the initial calling of all the callings I named before. And it excites me to go with this group and into this exploration, for hopefully, aspirationally, I want to say, set up the Vivero as a commons and give us the structures, I guess, with the processes and practices and agreements to show up in alignment of these 8 principles of managing a commons when we show up for Vivero and our stewardship. And I guess one of the wishes I have is that this container we are co-creating is spacious enough to hold us all, and not all as, oh yeah, I'm showing up and being present, but to hold us all when we show up complete, right? When we show up with all ourselves, because that is one of the essence I'm deeply, deeply grateful for in Vivero is that I can just show up with who I am in this particular moment in time and can trust that it will add in one way or another to this flow of immersions we are tending. Yeah, there's a whole lot of gratitude I'm feeling, I'm sensing with being part of this flow, being part of this co-creation and learning together. I stop here. Thank you. There's probably so much more I could have shared. Thank you, Dieter, for the reminder. Very, very poignant, I guess, for me to stop. Thank you for listening and going with me where we went right now.
Thank you, Kath. And before passing the cup, just inviting us to allow what's been shared, those amazing origin and continuation and flowing stories, allow them to land in your bodies. And I think I am passing the cup to Mezcal or Todd or both.
I am definitely. Okay, so my son is here. But I'll let you speak, Todd, to start us out. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think this is can you hear me okay? Yeah, I think it's an impromptu presentation and update session with CoFundEco. So I'm going to lean into the flow that Kath spoke to and say I'm not sure quite where this journey is going to go today, but I did spend some time with Mezcal kind of creating an infographic for Vivero that I think speaks to its evolution in all of its forms, as a community, as an idea, an inspiration, as a technology. So I'll just go in and share what we've put together. Most of it came together this morning, but can you see my screen?
Yes.
It's loading here. So this is an infographic that, again, it's I think I relate to it as like an evolutionary timeline of this community and, like I said, all of its forms. So Midi in her fairy tale shared a little bit about the history of Vivero and how it came to be, with Rachel and her visit to Barichara and the inspiration she brought back around a community working together in kind of a mutual commitment for supporting stewardship of our earth. And I think that was really well received by the Earth Regenerators community. We had people step up and start to participate and begin leading a circle around the Vivero idea in the mid part of 2022. There were, I would say, periphery conversations going on around the spirit of giving and how we could bring technology to giving activities in such a way where it enhanced the voice of the community. There were discussions of liquid giving in mid 2022 and what that could look like as a dynamic activity that's always where resources are always flowing. And I think over the past 2 years since the vision was born, I think we've kept this kind of like constellation of North Stars, or like constellation of inspirations and ideas alive. And we moved closer and closer to the point over time, over the 2 full years together, where those inspirations became more and more possible and more likely. So for me, kind of as a co-creator in the technology space, I kind of remain focused and energized around this idea of the commons, and a commons that's orienting itself around multiple forms of wealth and value that it can give and receive and offer to others. Yeah, I guess this part of the infographic is really like the timeline, and like speaks to the capacity and participation in Vivero. We have a little bit of kind of the life leading up to our first presentation to CoFundEco in, I believe that was August of last year. And overlaid on that, we have kind of these stages of the Vivero story. Its emergence in the Earth Regenerators community, the closure of the Earth Regenerators community, and it leads us all up to today, where kind of the app sits with its population, our recent fiscal sponsorship transition from Possible Planet to the Sustainable Futures Institute, where we formally introduced Eleanor Ostrom's commons management principles into the agreement that we're holding with our fiscal host. And it leads us to today. And in the future is kind of open, and this possibility space that we explore. Toward the top, I have a bit of a timeline of the Vivero technology and some reflections that were collected by members of our community, both within the Vivero stewardship circle and within kind of the gift recipient reflections that were collected after the turtle giving round in summer of 2023. So the top lines here kind of speak to the aspirations of the now 2 stages of Vivero. What we're calling Vivero version 1 is where we are now and where we're kind of coming from, and inherent in the vision of Rachel, which is a community-directed giving trust supporting bioregional stewards. The app that was prototyped provides that functionality, and allows the community to nominate and recognize potential beneficiaries that can receive funds in those giving rounds. And the reflection that was from the community was that technology is in the commons, and as a trust technology, the trusts are in the commons, and the values flow within the commons from a set of consent-based decision-making processes. So we leverage Lumio as this participatory space for surfacing opportunities and ideas and concerns. And Lumio provides this space for deliberation and dialogue and decision-making that allows us to move forward into kind of this vision that we see for Vivero. I think in 2023, our reflection, the community learning was that sourcing funding for giving rounds allowed us to learn and develop our own decision-making processes and deliberative processes. And the key insight was that we have many things to offer, and we have many things to care for and protect. So there are multiple flows of value that can exist and can be exchanged within Vivero. And it really brought to light this idea of an offers and needs market or exchange where we exist in the commons, and the commons is really oriented around the dynamic of reciprocity. So that leads us to some early conversations in 2024. I think the first time that the idea of the Vivero Commons was named was back in 2022 when we gave the first presentation for the technology. I think it's been fairly clear to me that the future of the technology can lead to this peer-to-peer system where we are peers to one another in the commons, but there are also collective structures, the trust that can be peers to each other as well, but really more at the collective level or the bioregional level. So there's this concept of Vivero Earth has emerged, and it really moves us from being a community-directed giving trust supporting local bioregional stewards to being a network of community-directed giving trusts supporting bioregional stewardship and emphasizing mutual aid, which is I liken to like orienting toward like basic needs. And I think it speaks to a more dynamic ecosystem, the Vivero Commons, where every bioregion can have its trust that fits into a network of bioregions, like bioregions exist on our living planet. And it's all for the commons and in the commons. And I think we've embraced a perspective and perceived an opportunity to actually form our own agreements that we hold with one another first, and then find legal structures that can adapt to those agreements we've made with the commitment to the commons. So the future looks like we'll be able to adapt legal structures to fit around Vivero instead of being dependent on maybe legacy legal structures that normalize certain behaviors that might not be helpful in the perspective of the commons. So the legal structure is evolving to best serve Vivero, our community, our practice, our norms and culture, and the technology and what we might consider like the greater good or spirit of Vivero. So that leads us to today with where we're at. Vivero version 2 is under development. We're working on calendar features that make sharing events easier, curating events and adding partner events, and really stepping into this idea that Vivero is a connecting layer between bioregions, between people. We're starting to think about how stewardship circles within Vivero could be a source of livelihood. And if you haven't found out already, Vivero has been invited by a group in the UK called Ethos VO to participate in the Commons Fund, which provides up to 2 years of a living income for project teams. So as the Vivero kind of circle, as this 2+ year volunteer group moves into this idea of the Commons, we've been extended this offer to participate in receiving a living wage for our continued stewardship. So it really introduces this opportunity to set up funded stewardship circles to continue our stewardship work, which makes my heart so happy. Kath spoke to this theme of offers and needs being a way to, I see it as kind of a negotiation. It's a way to engage in reciprocity. So part of the Vivero version 2 will include bioregional offers and needs exchange, where offers and needs can be made at a bioregional or local level, or between bioregions at a global level. I think there's an idea to introduce this idea of commitments and the commitments we're making together in a series of commitment pooling. So there's a lot of things on kind of the horizon for Vivero, and direct gifts are another, and understanding how we might be able to have both a common pool kind of at the global level that is accessed by bioregions and individuals in bioregions. So global and bioregional treasuries seems like an interesting opportunity, but yeah, that's really the vision of this infographic. The Vivero Commons at Vivero Earth, oriented around commons management principles. And the final reflection is that Vivero weaves community, technology, and the regenerative movement together around built trust, practice trust, and the commons. So this is available as a PDF. The intention for Mescal and I was just to create an artifact of where we are and what we see in the future. So hopefully this is inspirational to others and allows us to kind of represent the journey that we've all been on collectively, both within the circle and within the greater community. So that's what I have for today.
Wow, thank you so much, Todd. I'm so excited. This just, oof, things are unraveling, and I would love to hear also from Mescal if you feel like you can share. But before going there, I know some of the people in this meeting may need to go at the top of the hour. So if that's the case, just letting you know that that's all right, and that we will miss you, and that there will be a recording, and we might make some moment now if you want to say something before departing. I don't know if anybody needs to leave. There's a Fiber Sheds meeting of the CoFundEco gathering week happening. Thank you for the PDF as well. I just wanted to ask if you could put it in the chat. So if anybody needs to leave and wants to say something before leaving at the top of the hour, this is your chance. Great, looks like we're all staying. So I'm going to invite, no, Ben.
Ben's leaving.
Yeah, I think I may mosey over to the Fiber Shed group. Said I'm very torn between that and wanting to stay here. But it's been lovely hearing these stories, and I mean, what comes through so clearly is just the depth of care and delight and pleasure that you all have taken in telling the story. And I think that, therefore, in your time together to get to this point, which I'm sure wasn't always delightful and fun and smiley, but that positive energy and just sort of valuing of your history is a lovely grounding. So I'm excited to see where it goes. We're talking about trying to develop both a project funding capacity within CoFundEco, and I think Vivero can certainly play a role in that. Maybe we just sort of nominate Vivero to be, the stewards of that deliberative process. We are looking at doing some mapping that could be interesting to see how that integrates with what you're doing with Vivero in terms of mapping of projects with the map we have. And we did set aside $1,000 for mutual aid also. So I'm curious we haven't developed a process for how to allocate that yet. I don't expect it will be a deliberative one, so I'm sort of curious to learn more about your thinking in that regard. So I don't think we want applications for mutual aid and some group of people voting and selecting who gets money and who doesn't. Anyway, so just some seeds for future conversations as we move into this new phase with CoFundEco of really rolling up our sleeves and supporting the co-creation nodes that are showing up. And you were the first to show up and say, yes, we are a funding ecosystem for regeneration and we want your support. We want to share what we're learning. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's keep going.
Thank you, Ben. Just Kito, if you want to add something, it's fine. Also, just what share in the chat. Sorry, Midi, I came in.
I just want to say, please give our love to Fibre Sheds. We're looking forward to doing some things together with them. That's a dream.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just say that I'm so inspired and just glad. So I so appreciate the story sharing and how beautiful it is. And I'm sorry that I have to go, but the Fibre Shed call is quite relevant to some important things for me. So I'm sad to leave you and look forward to seeing you again soon.
So if nobody else needs to leave soon, I would love to hear from you, Pascal, if it's a good moment. Otherwise, I would also love to hear from Paula. And
to little people.
Yes.
Yeah, now it's fine. Big says hi, everybody. This is exam. But yes, I guess I can just sort of share my story quickly and kind of weave it back into this bigger movement, which is just, I actually started my journey through an invitation to CoFundEco with from Uhuru. And I was really enamored with the conversations and the just the dialogue in general. But I found that what I'm always pressing for is can you guys hear me okay? I know Biggs is over here kind of messing with the
Yes. Yes.
But okay, cool. But I was looking for more structure basically. And I realized that I was always kind of pushing for something that I think wasn't I don't know how, I wasn't sure how to manifest it in my participation in CoFundEco. And I was trying to sculpt my path, and in my path sculpting, you know, I was kind of walking through the forest and, you know, chopping out the bush as I walked through the forest down to the river.
Oh, you got muted. Yeah.
Sorry. When I got to a certain point, I was like, I know that I want to be involved in some storytelling. I know storytelling is a big thing for me, and I don't know how to manifest that. And so I also know that I want, like, there's a hunger for something that, a kind of container that's given to me rather than trying to carve one out. And I stumbled across Vivero because I can't remember what exactly the connection was. I just remember looking for a way to gather stories or to reflect stories in CoFundEco. And when I found the technology of Vivero, I was like, this is so much bigger than storytelling. This is it's a tool for collaboration. It's a tool for exchange. It's a tool for mutual aid and support. It's a tool for communities and projects to really bring forward what they're doing without needing so much of the structures that I've seen really hinder some of the projects that I've been involved with. And I just was so inspired, and it took me, yes, it took me to a space where I was like, this is where I want to dedicate my energy. you know, this is what enlivens my passion, you know, the intersections of community and technology and value flows, which was a whole new concept for me, this flow of values and being able to really dive deep into what are the alternative forms of value that we can exchange besides money and monetary things, and how at the same time can we honor what the financial contributions can do. You know, how can we hold all of that in the balance? And every time I had a question in regards to this flow and this relationship, I felt like Vivero had an answer. And for me, that was so refreshing and so so energizing that I was like, okay, well, whatever I need to do in order to continue to make this align with my life path, I'm gonna do. And so yeah, I've been blessed to be able to be a part of the Vivero Circle, and I'm still really just learning my bearings. And I give thanks for all of the grace that has been afforded to me, and being able to build relationships and stuff. And I just you know, continuing to reflect on what does it mean to really be in a collaborative space, and to really build um, to build us, where the baton is easy to be passed on to the next generation or the next iteration, you know? It seems so seamless to be able to flow this into a future where technology is really going to be the cornerstone of international works, you know? And for me, this is just like an answer to that. That's not so far out of the realm of the spirit that it's not tangible. You know, it's very tangible. It's alive. It's alive, and it can be kept alive, and it's fit. It's ready to be used in the future. So all of those things just. Yes, fire. Made it to the spring, drinking from the spring, in the water, swimming around, like, oh yeah, it was so hot, and I'm so cool right now. So yeah, that's my story. And yeah, thanks everyone for being so welcoming and kind and gentle. And everybody's spirit has just been so delightful to be in the midst of. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Oof. Hot. I'm just going to offer this cup of water of stories to you, Paula, if you feel like you want to share some of yours, but there's no obligation.
No, I think after Mescal and her energy, I don't have anything to add. It was really amazing, Mescal.
Thank you. So, Midi.
Well, I would actually like to publicly give a huge vote of thanks to Paula, because she is part of the infrastructure of Vivero, without which we wouldn't have actually made it this far. Paula, you are indispensable to us, and you ask the greatest, most difficult questions that need to be asked, and you always ask them with impeccable timing. So what you contribute to us is far beyond the incredible financial skills and gifts that you offer us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm really curious to know how things are landing with Elias and Julius, if they're in a position to talk. And I'd also love to hear from our dear friends in the Vivero circle, RJ and Adrian, if it comes to them to speak. So I'm curious and wondering if we've said what needs to be said, and whether for some of us there's energy to go and support fibre sheds. Maybe we don't need the extra space. Maybe we can be more support and nurturing in our own CoFundEco community by heading over to fibre sheds. What does anyone think?
I'd be interested in attending there since I missed most of this and want to see the recording. Please make sure I get the recording link. Thank you. And the link to the fiber sheds if possible.
I just dropped the fiber sheds link in the Zoom chat. So if you'd like to join.
Thank you. I
I
think
would love
that's
to stay.
Hmm.
I would love to stay and yeah, invite any questions, reflections, anything that is alive in anyone here. Thank you.
And I can see Vivek, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks for giving this update and just interesting to see the vision of what's coming next for Vivero. I was just kind of noticing maybe in the past few months, or I noticed this during the call, like Miss Call and was talking about her experience of understanding the explanations from Todd, and then I think earlier in the call, Mitty was talking about like Adrienne, who'd come in maybe earlier this year. And I guess maybe this brings up that question of like the identity of Vivero has changed at times, and then there's this all these concepts that arise. I guess that it seems like there's people that have their aha moment, where whether it's for like Adrienne had brought up this concept, this thought of like, oh, maybe you guys are trying to be more relationship first, or Mescal had brought up this thing about seeing where technology has this very crucial role. And I guess I'm a bit curious of how this is shaping your Vivero's identity finding and how it wants to explain its role, or like how it's I'm trying to avoid saying something like solution that gets into solutionism, but and yet I'm also trying to say like, I guess I'm trying to ask like, how do you guys see Vivero uh you know explaining its identity, I guess, in the future. I guess that and I know there's been iterations of that over the years too. So that's just been thought on my mind.
I can respond in a very immediate and concrete way, Vivek, because Julius, who is here in our call, and it's been lovely to see you, Julius, in every session I've been in, I think, this week. Julius and I were present to meet with Paul, who's a member of Paul Pivchevich, who's a member of CoFundEco, and his colleague, Simon Dawson, yesterday, when they had invited in any form of creative brainstorming for how can they actually realize a huge dream that they have for a very specific and beautiful bioregion in Britain on the border between England and Wales called the Forest of Dean. And there is a centre that they wish to buy, which is already in some small way performing the role of a bioregional learning centre for school children. And they wish to acquire the centre from its current owner and really take the dream of bioregional learning centres forward together. And they're several $100,000 short of, they've amassed a certain amount of money already, but they're several $100,000 short of what is needed to buy out a very distressed owner. And Julius, at a certain moment, said, well, I really identify with your issue. And when we were looking for community land, we asked everybody in our community to give a shilling. And in that second, I thought, oh my gosh, that's what Vivero is all about. So part of my dream for Vivero is that many people can actually access all of the really clever wizard technology of Vivero that Todd has brought into the story to create a local giving trust. Let the Forest of Dean people and community each give a shilling, or whatever the British equivalent is these days, because it's beyond shillings. And not only does it then receive the support of the community, but they can actually become an active part of growing that bioregional learning centre. And, you know, the word that came up several times for me this week, I've heard the words spoken in several different contexts, skin in the game. When a community has skin in the game, so much is regenerated, and people will bring their own ideas and their own regenerative seedlings. So that's, for me, a huge part of where I see Vivero going out into that Vivero earth. And I also want to thank you in passing, because I think it was you that found the domain Vivero earth. Thank you so much, Vivek. You are present in so many ways in our community, and I'm so grateful for knowing you.
Oh, I'll take it. Thank you. Yeah, that was during some interesting times for Vivero and a number of us, but yeah. But yeah, I think I'm getting what you're saying about I'm always trying to go back into the oh, is that just the, you know, the traditional tool like the GoFundMe, but then you're saying, oh, there's the skin in the game aspect, or what your people have also called like the multi-value flow, is that right? So there's some system of defining flow of multiple values. I don't want to get into it because that, I guess, depends on what that group wants to value ultimately, right? So, but interesting, yeah. And then I missed the Regenerosa presentation, but that's also, if I understand correctly, that's telling that story a little bit already, possibly. Is that correct? Okay, thumbs up. I'll have to watch the recording if there is one then. Okay, great.
I want to respond to your initial question, Vivek, if that is okay. I have this voice in me that says, no, Vivek, Vivero's identity hasn't changed. But that is like, you know, not the response, I guess, that in of itself is helpful. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that in just continuously dancing with Vivero and in the circle, I have gained so much more clarity and transparency of what Vivero actually can be, and it's actually ever evolving in a bit, but there are core essential pillars, I want to say, and that is yeah, supported through the technology. And yeah, I think the 8-value flow and flower is core, is definitely core. As I said earlier, I think I said something along the lines that we always valued contributions that are non-financial. And over time, I guess we just emerged more clearly within, I guess I want to say, the riverbanks of the commons and the 8-value flow. And that is also represented in I guess the meeting rhythm that has kind of like evolved. And so I feel like I feel like for myself, I'm constantly responding to this emergence. And that is something that I'm learning in Vivero. And to not fall back into forcing something into existence, but actually trusting this flow we are in, and trust, how they always say, trust the process. It's a
Well,
dance and a learning.
so you're defining that as a value in a sense, right? So then,
Yeah,
okay.
for me it is a huge value and a huge capacity building, I want to say, exercise, because I so easily, I need to say, probably as a manifesting generator in human design profile, I can so easily force something into existence and manifest it with a whole lot of energy exhaustion, I want to say. It's a highly entropic process I can easily fall into. But Vivero and her essence and us all and showing up regularly helps me to stay with this in this field of trust. I don't know how to explain it any different, but not to fall back into this forcing, but actually responding.
There's, sorry if I'm rambling here, but like I think what you brought up is pretty interesting because this has all been on my mind this week where um sorry um somebody was explaining integral theory and stages of human development, and like it's like you can have very high levels of integration, but you the people who like talk about this, but they can also say, well, what are the values? So you can put the integration aside and ask, like, still, what are the values or virtues? And perhaps that might be a big differentiator for this approach here, compared to the greater tapestry of efforts that we've seen in the space. So great, thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. And then at the same time, I think this is the last I guess the last note I want to make is that I also experience Vivero as a very spacious space, if that is a thing, where the multiple voices are essential in telling the story. It's that if we are lucky enough that there's like one purpose or evolutionary purpose or vision is emerging, then it is always carrying all the voices that are present in Vivero. And so, you can ask Todd and he will give you a very different or slightly answer to your question, and it all belongs. Yeah, and for that, I'm deeply, deeply grateful. Thank you.
That takes me straight to Tyson Yunkaporta, whose Sand Talk was one of the earliest books I read when I became involved in this sort of regenerative pathway. And how he says so clearly that right story is never an individual story. Right story has always been collectively created and recreated and is a living story, and it carries the the culture and story of its people and place within it, and especially its place. And what I think what is so, for me, as I reflect on these years of just showing up in Vivero space and often being lost for words to try and describe and respond to questions about who is Vivero, what is Vivero. What I know is that I am growing as a result of the showing up, that there's a generosity of that there's a harvest that I benefit from the showing up. The reciprocity is actually built into the Vivero process, and that feeding, that harvest can take so many different forms. But I think at the core of it, we are co-creating this different culture that the world knows it needs, that people are so hungry and thirsty for, which is so rooted in right relationship and right story.
Thank you, thank you. Just inviting if there are still some voices, some questions. I love that. It's for me, there's such a big resonance with the diversity of story and such a beautiful contrast with much of my life and the organizations that I worked in, and how we had to unite our vision, and in so doing, maybe we moved faster, which is not necessarily good. A lot of the possibilities were basically culled and removed from our work. So really appreciating how you turn this, because it's like the question for me is always, oh, if we have this diversity of visions, how do we move forward? And you are an amazing example of that. So it's not like you're going in different directions, but there is not this, oh, you have to have this really precise theory of change. So I'm so delighted for that. And so if there are no more burning questions or things that people want to ask, see you, Kath. Otherwise, it would be lovely to have something that was suggested just before we started the call, to have around towards the end, where people connect with those 8 values of something that you connected with, that either you received or gifted to this call. And I would love for you to hold that piece, Kath, if you feel able.
I don't know. Sorry, Dieter.
It's good. I'm happy to continue.
Thank
But you were going to say something.
Yes, thank you. And it is actually an acknowledgement of the beauty Annelieke has brought into Vivero. And it came up in your sharing, Dieter, because it is not a given thing that we are sitting here today and presenting together on many, many different levels. We could have easily gone separate ways and, contribute our energy to any other project that, is out there and is shining bright. And I wholeheartedly believe that the regenerative constellations with Annelieke has unblocked something in us that let us turn around and look at each other while we are dancing again and actually dancing together. And I think it's not that we have the expertise necessarily within the circle, within the closed circle, but we do have the community around us with the expertise and the knowledge that can bring us forward. And I guess a big part of our learning is to understand those needs and be able to express those needs, and just, I guess, invite everything that comes as a response. And I wanted to, I guess, say gratitude and thanksgiving to Annalike for her wisdom in getting us here.
Thank you. Yes. So I don't know, would it be helpful if I share that beautiful flower? Or, yeah, I see Midi dancing. Or maybe the 8 values are so familiar to all of you that it's okay just to have it. What do you think, Midi? You're muted.
I'd love to see the flower and express gratitude to our partners Regenerosa and local food forests, and to Spencer, who created the graphic, and to everybody else who's been breathing the flower into living form as a way in which we actually focus on what are the values that we are co-creating, what are we receiving, what are we sharing, what are we distributing.
So here it is. I just zoomed into the core a little. Oops. And now went to other pictures. Oh, sorry. Here we go again. Dun, 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 dun. My clever connection is not working, so I'm not going to zoom it in again. It's just going to be as it is.
Maybe this flower is shy. Maybe it gave
flower is
enough of a
shy.
picture. There
it is. So, would you like Midi to share something that connects you with something you received or brought within those 8 values?
Well, what I've received today is what actually I've received in different forms in every single meeting that I've been in, where we in Vivero Circle have shared our story, which is just the sheer experiential value of being together, of showing up, and of being ourselves together in service to Vivero. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Anyone else? Trisha, please.
Thank you. Yes, before actually my battery goes, I want to present the spiritual value of today's session, because for me, this work is really all about trusting, and this work is really all about surrendering, because there's so many things that we just don't know. And there's so much to just be open to and allow to present itself. And the Circle of Vivero has really been an incredible container for allowing for that trust and that surrender to manifest and to be safe. So I want to hold that up. And then, because this is a CoFundEco presentation, I want to actually hold up the value of financial value that CoFundEco provided to Vivero and Regenerosa and local food forests, so we could actually do the experiential work of working and enlivening this flower. And then also, because I'm a big believer in manifestation, I want to call in the material value of one of those little iPad cubes that allows for me to charge my iPad in an efficient way. Thank you all so much. Such a beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm noticing the time, maybe some of us need to leave. We are reaching the half-hour top. I'm happy to stay a couple of minutes, but I do need to leave to the fiber shed meeting for the last half hour.
I better go quick then with my checkout. Yes, I do want to speak to the living value I have received today, and I hope I was also able to give. And somehow what comes back to me ever since Todd's presentation is this image of our nervous system looking kind of in the same shape and form, I want to say, like a tree. And I guess that is my humble attempt to honor the living value that I have received today. I'm passing it on to Todd.
Yeah, I think for me today's was experiential and cultural. We got to have a shared experience and share a bit of the participatory kind of collective intelligence nature of the Vivero culture. So yeah, I'll pass it on. Vivek.
Oh, it's been interesting to see what has started a couple of years ago and like get a rough idea of the vision, and then just ask that question again of like, you know, the explanation, understand, reifying like that thing brought up like half about values. So thanks. I'll pass to Mescal if she's, or who else is still here.
Yes, that's wonderful. Mascot.
Yes, I will also say experiential. It's just been a joy. I really enjoyed the mythological origin story. The infographic was off the chain, and the reflections on the current developments, Kat. Thank you, and everybody in the room. Thank you for your presence, and shout out to Paula for holding it down, and Adrian coming with that wisdom, and yeah, RJ, thanks for being here. Julius, what's up? Elias, I see you. Dita, the hostess with the mostest. Yeah, it's been a joy. So thank you so much. Am I the last? The
There's
last
still
of those two.
Yeah, the last of the ones who spoke. I don't know if Paula, Elias, Julius, Adrienne, RJ, if you want to share.
Yeah, I'd like to share something. Actually, I'm touched by the concept of Vivero. First, also is to thank them for the wonderful work they are doing. And based also on the concept I shared about one shilling approach, and seeing that Vivero also they're implementing the same approach, it's just to tell them that the concept works. It takes time, but in the long run, it works. And one, it also has flexibility. Two, it is locally approachable, like it doesn't require any external thing. You just work within your own mechanism, then you find it working. And also from my own experience, I've used it. It has worked. It has enabled me with my community, have a community learning center where people are able to come and get knowledge from permaculture, farming approaches, and also ICT training for young people, and also space for people to be able to explore their potential and just to be able to discover themselves. So I'm happy with this approach, and I look forward to be part of it and also to learn more on other approaches they have, and also for me to be able to share my experience with the 1 shilling approach here in Kenya. So thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you. Thank you for grounding us in place as well. So
Thank
I
you.
think we might just round it up like this. I know some of us still need to go on to another call, but I don't know if it's okay to leave the Zoom open if people want to stay, Midi. That's down to you.
We'll see. I'm going to hop over to Fibre Sheds. We'll see if the space stays open and people continue to talk. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you so much, Dieter. Your hosting is so gracious.
Thank you.
Makes
Thank
it
you. Such an honor to be here.
Thank you, Dieter.
so.
Thank you, everyone. Be well.
Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Bye.